Notice to the public, if you wish to address the council, please complete the public wishing to address the council form located on either end of the counter and give it to either the chairman or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. All comments must be addressed to the council as a whole. Addressing individual council members or staff is not allowed. Speakers should be courteous in their choice of words and actions, and comments shall be limited to the issue and cannot involve individuals or staff-related matters. Thank you. All cell phones and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to call this meeting of the Terrebonne Parish Council to order, and we'll have the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Carl Harding.
Heavenly Father, as we come today, we here in Terrebonne Parish and as the council, we're not forgetting the elderly, those that are mentally and physically challenged, those that are incarcerated in hospitals, oh God. We would like for us to come on a unified call to God that the affairs and the people of Terrebonne Parish that we're doing a job well done. We ask us to bless you to bless us with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we may go forward with the business of Terrebonne Parish. In your darling son Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Hampton, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Amadei?
Here.
Mrs. Domain?
Here.
Mr. Darren Guidry? Mr. Babin? Mr. Dirk Guidry? Mr. Trosclair? Mr. Tillman? Mr. Harding? Mr. Michel? Madam Chairwoman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you. I do have a little housekeeping to do, and I have a letter from Mr. Gerald Michel. It says, please accept my apologies for not being in attendance at tonight's council meeting due to not feeling well. I will keep myself informed of matters on the agenda and items needing my attention. Thank you for understanding. Best regards, Gerald Michel, Councilman, District 5, and we certainly hope Mr. Michel feels better soon. Approved minutes of the regular council session held on January 25th, 2023. Moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry, second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines. We have 8 yeas and no nos. Motion passes. Distribute minutes of the regular council session held on February 8th, 2023. This has been done. Distribute minutes of the special session condemnations on February 27th, 2023, and this has also been done. Approve accounts payable bill list for February 13th, 2023 and February 27th, 2023. Moved by Mr. Darren Guidry, second by Mr. Steve Trosclair. Members, vote your machines. We have 8 yeas and 0 nos. Motion passes. General business. Proclamation proclaiming the month of March 2023 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Terrebonne Parish. Mr. Dirk Guidry.
Thank you. Whereas problem gambling is a public health concern affecting millions of Americans of all ages, races, and ethnic backgrounds in all communities, causing a significant social and economic cost, and whereas promoting awareness provides individuals in the problem gambling community an opportunity to educate the public and policymakers about the social and financial effectiveness of services available for problem gambling. Whereas problem gambling is treatable and treatment is effective in minimizing the harm to both individuals and society as a whole. And whereas the state offers a myriad of services aimed at treating problem gaming, including educational preventional programs, residential treatment, outpatient counseling, and aftercare programs throughout the state. A toll-free Louisiana Problem Gamblers Helpline at 1-877-770-STOP that answers calls from people seeking help with gambling problems. And a website aimed at the prevention of problem gambling is at www.helpforgambling.org. And whereas Louisiana was the first state to have numerous state-funded programs such as the Residential Treatment Facility, Center for Recovery Corps in Shreveport for problem gambling. And whereas numerous organizations such as the Louisiana Association of Compulsive Gambling, the Louisiana Lottery, the Louisiana Casino Association, the Louisiana Gaming Industry, the Office of the Attorney General, the State Police Gambling Division, and the Gaming Control Board have worked together with the Louisiana Department of Health and all statewide districts to address problem gambling. And whereas numerous individuals, professionals, and organizations have dedicated their efforts to the education of the public about problem gambling, prevention about problem gambling, along with the availability of effectiveness of treatment. Now is therefore be resolved by the Terrebonne Parish Council on behalf of the Terrebonne Parish President Gordon E. Dove and the entire Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government that the month of March 2023 be hereby proclaimed Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Terrebonne Parish, and that all citizens be encouraged to help spread the message that there is help for problem gamblers throughout the treatment and support those who are in treatment and recovery and their families. Presented on this 28th day of February 2023, signed by Gordon E. Dove, Parish President, and Jessica Domingue, Council Chair. Is there anybody in here to receive this?
Good evening, my name's Janet Price, I'm the marketing director for South.
Hold on 1 second, she didn't have the mic on there yet. All right.
Sorry.
It's okay.
All right, it's on now.
Okay, good evening, I'm Janet Price, I'm the marketing director for South Central Louisiana Human Services Authority. Thank you for doing this proclamation. South Central is pleased to offer assessments and treatment for gambling in 7 parishes, including Terrebonne Parish. We're also getting ready to start tomorrow on a statewide social media campaign to make the public more aware of resources available in our area and across the state for gambling. So thank y'all for doing this, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have a couple of lights, okay?
Oh, sure.
Mr. Darren Guidry.
Do I have a light? Well, I didn't know I pushed the button, but that's okay. Thank you for what you do. And, mental health and addictions and problems, are a growing issue in our community and communities throughout the nation. And, we appreciate you guys being there, and anything that we can do to help you guys, you let us know.
Well, thank you. And fortunately, I am in the administration office doing marketing, but I'm in the clinics a lot and see what they're dealing with. And you are right. Unfortunately, mental health is a big issue, but we have a very dedicated staff of almost 250 people across our 4 clinics that are doing everything that they can to help with that.
Well, thank you. You're a resource to Terrebonne Parish.
Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for
Thank you.
everything you do.
Thank you.
Item B, a commendation commending Miss Celeste Rogers on being crowned 2022 Rougarou Queen. And it brings me a great honor to read this for my dear friend, Miss Celeste. Whereas in 2022, Miss Celeste Roger was named the Rougarou Fest Rougarou Queen, and whereas Miss Roger, a lifelong Houma resident and mother of 4 and a licensed clinical social worker, has been a firm believer in and promoter of volunteering, having served her local communities through several nonprofit organizations, and whereas Miss Roger has become an advocate for her local communities and their unique cultural identities through highlighting local artistry and costumes. And whereas Ms. Roger remains dedicated to the mission of the Rougarou Fest and its goal of bringing awareness of the region's natural landscapes and their importance in maintaining local history while providing for the future. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Terrebonne Parish Council on behalf of the Parish President and the entire Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government that the 2022 Rougarou Queen, Celeste Roger, be presented the key of the city in recognition of her efforts as an ambassador of local folklore, culture, and environmental awareness, presented this 8th day of February 2023. And this key of the city was signed by myself and Parish President Gordon E. Dove and endorsed by the entire council.
It's really been an honor and privilege to serve as the 2022 Rougarou Queen. It has actually been 3 years in the making, unfortunately, due to COVID and Hurricane Ida. So it was a long 3 years. And so it's been an honor. It's amazing to work very closely with Jonathan and this community. And we greatly appreciate everything that all of you do for our community. And we hope that each year it gets bigger and bigger, and we'll continue to have the support that we have, not just from our community, but from all of you. So thank you so much.
All right.
And I couldn't accept this without Jonathan. He's been amazing. So thank you so much.
We'll stick around a few minutes because we have another special honor for you and Jonathan as well. But Celeste, I just want to tell you, you do so much for the community, and this has been a transformation because I saw you just a few hours at the clinic and so
Right.
it was an honor for me, and sometimes this
Thank
job is really fun for me as well, because I do honor my friends, and so you just do so much, and we really appreciate everything
I
you do.
appreciate it. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Item C, a commendation commending the Rougarou Fest on being named 2022's Festival of the Year by the Louisiana Travel Association. Mr. John Amity.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm truly honored to be able to read this commendation today. It's City of Houma, Louisiana Parish of Terrebonne commendation. Whereas the Terrebonne Parish Council would like to recognize that Homa's annual Rougarou Festival has earned statewide recognition from the Louisiana Travel Association by being named Festival of the Year in its annual presentation of the Louis Awards. And whereas the Rougarou Festival is an annual fundraiser and educational event provided by the South Louisiana Wetlands Discovery Center with the goals of highlighting local culture and folklore and promoting the preservation of Louisiana's wetlands. And whereas the Rougarou Festival, under the leadership of Mr. Jonathan Foray, the Discovery Center's executive director, has experienced exceptional growth in participation by local residents and visiting tourists for over 10 years due to its spooky and unique atmosphere and due to its many, many dedicated and devoted volunteers. And whereas the Rougarou Festival success as a tourist destination has always highlighted and provided positive economic impacts to Homa's downtown historic district and to Terrebonne Parish as a whole, now therefore be it resolved by the Terrebonne Parish Council on behalf of the parish president and the entire Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government that the Rougarou Fest be commended for receiving the Louisiana Travel Association's 2023 Festival Event of the Year award and for its effort in presenting and promoting local culture and environmental awareness. Presented this 28th day of February 2023, and it is signed by Parish President Gordon Dove, Council Chairwoman Jessica Domingue, and endorsed by the entire Terrebonne Parish Council. Mr. Foray.
It's an honor to represent Terrebonne Parish through the Rougarou Fest with this award, and thank you for the commendation. We could not do it without volunteers and our sponsors, so this recognition I'm happy to receive on behalf of them, not myself, because I'm just one person, and this takes upward toward 250, 300 people to produce every year. So this honor is for those folks. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Item D, a commendation commending the Hash Grant Association on receiving the 2022 Community Partnership Award by the Louisiana Travel Association. Mr. Darren Guidry.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm honored to read this proclamation, and it reads, whereas the Terrebonne Parish Council would like to recognize that the Hashi Grant Association has earned statewide recognition for the Louisiana Travel Association by receiving its 2022 Community Partnership Award during its annual presentation of the Louis Awards. And whereas the Hashi Grant Association, under the direction of its president, Noah Lered, is responsible for many events held annually with the goal of highlighting and celebrating local culture, local businesses, and local communities, including the Bayou Terrebonne Boucherie and the Moma Walk and Tailgate. And whereas the Hashi Grant Association Incorporated remains committed to its goal of assisting with the revitalization of downtown Houma and Terrebonne Parish, as evidenced by its role in the replacement of a community bandstand in downtown Houma and other programs that promote growth in the local communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Terrebonne Parish Council, on behalf of the parish president and the entire Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, that the Hashi Grant Association Incorporated be commended for receiving the Louisiana Travel Association's 2022 Community Partnership Award and for its efforts toward enhancing the quality of life in Terrebonne Parish, presented this 28th day of February, 2023, signed by our parish president, Gordon Dove, our chairwoman, Jessica Domingue, on behalf of the entire Terrebonne Parish Council. Congratulations.
It's been my greatest honor in my life to serve in this organization. I'm sure I could say the same for the rest of the people here. You know, we're a nonprofit, but there's no way that we could have done what we've done or had the impact on our community without public-private partnership and partnership with our community. So I just want to say thank you for your continued trust in us to help. Because that's all we want to do is help our community get better and stronger and thrive. So thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you with future projects.
Yeah, we have a few lights, so stay up there. Mr. John Amity?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, some time back, a couple years back, I guess, I was speaking with Ryan's father, and we were talking about how City Park in New Orleans has an organization that really does a lot of these things. And we were looking, you know, saying who could possibly do that here in the parish, and I guess now we know. So I really want to thank you guys for all that you're doing and the work that you're doing. I know it's a lot to take on and get going, and those in the future hopefully will reap the benefits of the ride and getting these things done. But what you've been able to do in such a short time speaks, and from the people that I speak to in the community, they've recognized it. So for all of you guys, not just y'all, but all that participate, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Mr. Darren Guidry. Oh, sorry, we have a
That's
new
okay.
system.
Yeah, you know, in years ago, nonprofits provided a lot of help and support for the communities, you know, and government fulfilled its mission that nonprofits couldn't. Somewhere along the line, that changed. You know, we have a hospital that was run by the Catholic Church at one time that then became government. They had other services that were run by nonprofits that eventually government took over everything. And government has so many limitations that, you know, I'm hoping this is a trend to get back to working with, you know, private entities, so that way we can achieve things that really just, you know, are very difficult to achieve by the government alone. So I'm hoping look, what you guys have done, what we've partnered with the Rotary Club to do at the Centennial Park, I mean, these are the type of things that we need to promote. And I think you guys are setting a good example, and I'm hoping we also can get more involvement from the business community I talked to some of the business community about adopting highways. Hopefully we can do that to help clean up some of the highways of garbage and trash and have some maybe nonprofits, adopt areas and help keep them clean because, we need to all work together to make it work. Thank you guys for what you do. It's a well-deserved award.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yes, and from the chair, we are only about 18 months out of Hurricane Ida, one of the biggest natural disasters that we have ever seen in Terrebonne Parish's history. And here tonight, we're giving an award for the Festival of the Year and the Nonprofit of the Year. It just goes to show our resilience, and we talk about that word so much, but look where we are and look how much we've achieved in such a short amount of time. And it's because of the Rougarou Fest, and it's because of the Hash Grant, and it's because of Jonathan and Celeste, and it's because of you guys. And we're all such a great team, and we need to continue that momentum, and we've got it now. And so I just want to thank you guys, and I'm so glad and happy because I was able to have all my friends up here today, and so that was really an honor for me. So thank you guys for everything that you do.
Thank you, and Wash Balabatat.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to deviate to agenda item 9A.
We have a motion to deviate from agenda item 9A by Mr. John Amity, a second by Steve Trosclair. Members, can you please vote your machines? We have 8 yeas. Motion passes. I have to read it first. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Item 9A, appointment of chief of police. And can you turn on your light? Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
All right, Mr.
I'd like to make a
Trusclair.
motion that council hold for 2 weeks the ratification of the appointment of Mr. Travis Terrio as Houma Police Department Police Chief as per section 2-73 and 2-98 of the Terrebonne Parish Code.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Steve Trosclair and a second by Mr. Darren Guidry. Members, please cast your votes. Motion passes. We will hold over the appointment of the police chief, Mr. Terrio, for 2 weeks. But congratulations, sir. I know you're going to be very busy in the next 2 weeks, so we'll see you back here in a couple weeks, sir. Would you like to say something tonight?
So I would really, at this point in time, just like to thank Mr. Dove and the council for trusting me with leading this agency. I feel like we have one of the best agencies in the area, if not the best agency. Everybody at our agency is represented and love our community, and we plan on doing great things going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you in a couple weeks, and we'll have all the,
Yep.
prompt and circumstance at that point. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, sir. Motion to go back in regular order by Mr. Darren Guidry, second by Mr. Dirk Guidry. Members, vote your machines. Motion passes. Item number 2, council members request discussion of item A, discussion related to parish policies and procedures post Hurricane Ida. Mr. Carl Harding.
Yes, we've come a long way, and Earl has been working on this. He has a rather lengthy plan. He's going to highlight some of the pluses and minuses, so we can know where we are going into the hurricane season, and some of the things that were basically pluses and minuses. And I will not talk too much more because Earl, that's his expertise.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Earl Hughes, Director of the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness for Terrebonne Parish. As Mr. Harding has stated, we as a group did perform a after-action review from Hurricane Ida. This after-action review was prepared in April of 2022. Some months after the storm, basically due to the
because most of the departments were real busy still trying to get back on their feet after the storm. But we were able to, so for those of you that know how my office operates, we have what we call emergency support function managers, and those are the people that sit in our emergency operations center that makes the decisions for the different aspects of the parish. So what we did is we took those people that sit at certain areas within the EOC, grouped them together, and did an after action review with just those few people that sit at those tables. It makes for more of a controlled atmosphere for people to say what they need to say, and less chaos with because most of you guys have been in the EOC. Once all those chairs are filled, it's about 50 people. So it's very hard to have an after action review with everyone in place. The after action review is very extensive. It's a very detailed report of about 8 pages. I will not go through all the 8 pages this evening, but I will hit some of the highlights that were brought up. So basically at the after action review, we talk about 3 things. We talk about the strengths that occurred during the storm, the things that we did good. Okay. And then we talk about we call areas of improvements. I don't like to call them weaknesses. I like to say that there's just areas that we need some improvements on. And then we talk about what actions will be taken or that could be taken to make those improvements within those certain areas. I'll begin with with 3 of the biggest ones that we had. One was communications, and we all experienced that. Okay. The second thing I'm going to speak about is the fuel availability throughout the parish, and then the other large incident was securing some generators for certain items within the parish. So first of all, I'm going to speak about the communications. Most of you guys know that we were pretty much out of communications for 72 hours. And when I say 72 hours, it's mostly cellular communications. And for everybody, that's very difficult. Okay. But when you have such a large storm that produces so much damage, we're going to be out of communications for 72 hours as far as cellular goes. Okay. We do not control the cellular infrastructure as a parish. So we have to rely on the majors such as T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T to be able to get their equipment in here in time and to set that equipment up to allow us to communicate via cell phones. The other issue on communications is we have the 700 megahertz radio system that we can use. That system is wired through what people would call fiber. Okay, so that fiber is underground, and every time a tree topples over, and if it's inside the communication right away, it'll pull that fiber up and cut the fiber. Once the fiber is cut, we lose the connections to all these antennas that we have that allows us to speak across the parish effortlessly on a regular day. So those things had occurred also. We do not own the 700 megahertz system either. That is a state-run system through the Louisiana State Police and the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. So they control that system and they maintain the system. On an everyday like today, that system is perfect. It works great. I can talk to somebody in Shreveport just like I'm talking to you guys today. But during a major event, with the damage that's caused to the fiber lines, it cuts our communications. Now, given that the fiber's cut, the radios can still be used, but I can only talk under an umbrella of what the tower has. So if the umbrella of the tower reaches 1.5 miles or 2 miles, then my radio will talk to somebody else within that 2-mile radius under that umbrella. The problem is when the fiber's cut, it doesn't reach the next tower. I'm not connected to that next tower, so I cannot talk to them on that next tower. So not only did parish have the issues with communication, but the state cannot communicate. State police cannot communicate. Wildlife and Fisheries Committee, any kind of state agency has the same issue that we have because they run off the same towers that we do. The fire departments in our local area have the same issue. Some of the fire departments still have what we call high band or VHF radio systems. When the 700 system came out, some of the fire departments did not give up their licenses for the VHF system. So they're able to communicate. But the issue is not everybody has that VHF frequencies because people gave up, the other departments gave up their licenses. So and they're different channels. So, and it's a different radio. So it's not the same radio that we carry on a daily basis. The fire departments are looking at that as a solution to try to get a parish-wide VHF system up and running that'll provide us with some communications in the event that we have another storm or any type of emergency that knocks out the communications. It takes towers, it takes antennas, and it takes control units in order to institute that here in Terrebonne Parish. So that it's not something that's just out of the box. We just can't go to XYZ store, pull all this stuff out and say it's going to work. But we're all working on trying to get that system up and running. The state is looking at going to some type of microwave wireless system with the towers. Once again, that's a state issue. It's a state funding issue in order to get that done. The state has probably, if I had to guess, over 150 towers within this state that would need to be taken care of. So, and it would be a very costly expense for the government to do that. But I do know that they are looking into trying to get that up and running, because it just didn't happen here in Terrebonne. It happened in Laura, okay, in Lake Charles and the Cameron Parish areas when Laura hit through there. So they are looking at trying to improve that communication. One of the things that helped us during the storm for communications, we were able to get on what we call the FirstNet system. Some of the responding agencies in our parish are on the FirstNet system. The police department's on FirstNet. Some of the fire department in the parish is on FirstNet. We're on the FirstNet system with our cellular phones. We were able to get 100 phones from AT&T and to put those phones on the FirstNet system. Once we were able to distribute those phones, AT&T had already came in with what they call a SAT code. It's a cellular on wheels type thing that works off of satellites, and it allowed us to use these FirstNet phones. Even on the AT&T network, it's a separate network than what the general public would use. So once they set up that SAT code at the EOC, we had about a mile range that we could talk with our cell phones. And then 2 days later, after the storm, they brought in a blimp. Okay, it was my understanding the blimp was put up at the sports port. We then had great coverage, but Lafourche didn't have any coverage, so they moved that blimp to Raceland and put it back up, and it gave a 100-mile radius. So all of Terrebonne and all of Lafourche could operate on the FirstNet system on these phones, and first responders were able to communicate at that point with these phones. So, and then as they're doing that, you got to remember, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon, they make money they're a private company. They don't want their towers down. They want their service up as quickly as possible. So they bring their people in and they start putting up tower by tower by tower and providing services. And y'all notice that during the storm, 3 days after, 4 days after, 7 days after, your cellular service got better and better because they were in here repairing those lines. We had the opportunity to get what they call a CRT unit to put at our office. It's a CRD. It's a compact rapid deployable. It is like a satellite system for AT&T FirstNet. So we were able to get one of those at no cost from AT&T. We have to pay for some service. The service, the unit itself didn't cost us anything. And during the next storm, immediately after the storm, we'll be able to put that unit up and we'll have service at least a mile around my facility, okay, for first responders. Well, that takes a lot of people. That covers a lot of people. You wouldn't think it does. Now that the sheriff's office has moved next to us, it'll cover that whole sheriff's office. It'll cover our building. It'll cover Public Works and Juvie Justice and anyone else that is set up or in that area, a mile range. You will have service if you're on the FirstNet system. So that will give us a little heads up to be able to have some communications a little quicker. I'm not saying the 700 system is going to go down every time, but it's most likely it will, basically because of the fiber system. So we're trying to make sure that we're telling all the agencies to please get on the FirstNet system. So it's viable that the fire department, if they have cellular phones in their department, they should get on FirstNet. If the police department, they should get on FirstNet. The sheriff's office is pretty much on FirstNet already for those communications. The next biggest thing about communications was the internet. So in our office, we operate off of voice over internet protocol, our telephones. If I do not have the internet, my telephones do not work in our office. Well, for the last 12 years, we have had a system from ground control, which is a satellite internet-based system. It's a dish. We stick it out, put it in the parking lot, we activate it, and we have internet service into our office. It's very limited though. It's only 20 megabytes, which means that I can't have all 50 people on the phone at the same time. And we all can't be on our cell phones trying to use the internet in that building because there's just not enough bandwidth. Well, we solved that problem. So our friend Elon Musk has a system called the Starlink system. So GOSAP has allotted us 6 Starlink units that we can distribute to critical infrastructure such as the police department, the fire department, our office, IT, places that will need to keep the internet system up and running for the parish. It's a great system, but it's very expensive. Okay, so we're gonna have a system at our office that'll stay activated at all times. The other ones will be activated when as needed during storms or any type of emergency. Basically, if we get an electromagnetic pulse that knocks everything out, we can still use the system to reach the satellites. So. So we are improving on that method as far as communication goes. But I do want people to understand that the next Hurricane Ida that hits this area, and it is a Cat 4 or Cat 5 storm, we're going to continue to have communication problems. We're just not at the point to where we won't ever lose communications as far as what the public considers communications, cellular phones. Okay, so but they're working to try to improve those things, and it's just gonna take a few years for the technology to advance to maybe we're all on satellites in the future using our cell phones. The next thing,
Mr. Hughes?
yes,
Before we move on, I have a few lights, so
Okay.
could we maybe have
Sure.
some questions about communication?
Sure.
And then we'll, Mr. Trosclair, do you have a question about communications?
Yeah, you talked about this, on the 700 system tower that, at your office, you could within that 1 mile, a mile and a quarter, umbrella communicate. Are there any other towers in the parish located where you could communicate and jump across?
we have, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think we have like 5 700 megahertz towers here. Okay, but the umbrellas don't cross to where you have that direct connection.
Okay, just my question. Thanks.
Mr. Harding, do you have any questions about communication? Okay, all right. Okay, you can go on, Mr. Hughes.
Okay, so the next issue was the fuel availability, which pretty much impacted everyone. Okay, the parish has a contract with what we call a jobber or a company that provides fuel. They provided the fuel, but they just couldn't provide us enough. Okay, so we ended up going to another contractor, and we hired another contractor, and we were getting fuel from that contractor. But that same contractor is trying to supply the rest of the people in Lafourche Parish, and gas was running out in St. Mary. The storm didn't even impact St. Mary Parish, and there was no fuel. There was hardly any fuel in Lafayette to be gotten. So those of you that have maybe traveled outside the parish notice that we're gonna according to Candace and the finance department, we're gonna contract with several companies to provide the fuel. Okay, but if Marathon is shut down like it was because of the storm, that is one of the largest fuel producers in our area. If the tanker truck can't load up, there is no fuel. Okay, so I brought up an idea. Why don't we just get a barge of diesel fuel and a barge of gasoline and put it on the river? You're talking about almost $1 billion. I mean, it's millions of dollars to get fuel in a barge. And by the time you contracted that and worked the paperwork out and got that fuel barge down here, then you got to find a way to get the fuel off the barge into the tank trucks, and you got to have the tank trucks to take the barge. Once that barge is full of fuel, we own that fuel. And when I say we, Terrebonne Parish would own it because the state's not going to buy it. That would be something that we would have to expense, which we're talking about a lot of money. We own every drop of fuel in that barge, whether it's diesel or gasoline. Okay. The logistics of trying to get that done it's not impossible, okay, but it's almost impossible due to the fact that we don't have a facility here to where that we could offload that much fuel at one time to supply the area. And we don't have the tank trucks that could come here and do that. Okay. So Hurricane Laura had the same issue. The fuel is always an issue because some of the plants were shut down in Lake Charles and some of the plants were shut down in Beaumont, Texas. So trying to get fuel across the line and to get that going. The other issue is everybody's looking for fuel, not just us, not just the parish as first responders. We have every single person that's in this parish driving a car is looking for fuel. And part of the issue is if I lived in Pointe-au-Chien and by the time I got in my car and drove to town during the storm, I was in traffic probably for about an hour and a half. Okay. And it took me another hour and a half to get back. So I burned 3 hours of fuel trying to get someplace to get something that I may have needed and to get back. So we're working with the state to try to come up with another idea to try to get more fuel into the area immediately after the storm. But it's a logistics issue. We had a truck at the Civic Center for first responders. That truck probably got there probably a day and a half to 2 days after the storm. It's got to find its way here. The roads got to be cleared. They got to get here. And when we talk about cleared roads, we're not just talking about trees and marsh grass. We're talking about utility lines. And the lines that haven't fallen down, they're hanging so low, I can't get the 18-wheeler through the streets because the lines are so low. So there are some logistics that we're working on as far as that aspect goes. The next biggest issue that we found during our Mr. Harding.
Good idea with the barge, but the expense to fill up a whole barge. But when I was working offshore, we actually put rigs on barges. So the possibility of just actually getting tank trucks, float them to a particular area, if our waterway is clear, we can actually get a large volume in that manner and won't be as expensive. So I just want to add that into it.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. But the issue is I can't wait to get the fuel after the storm. I got to get it before the storm. So we can expend a lot of money before the storm, and if the storm turns and goes somewhere else, we have a lot of fuel that needs to be dispensed of. But I've talked to the state about that. If that would occur, why couldn't the state bear that cost and wherever the storm goes, push the barge to where it needs to go? Okay, they're going to pay for it anyway. All right, or the federal government's going to end up paying for it anyway. So like I said, we have been talking and trying to see how we're going to get more fuel into an area. Like I said, it's not just us; it's the whole Gulf Coast when it's struck by a storm. So the state's trying to find an issue to fix that. Okay, the other thing I want to speak on is well, I got a couple more things. We use a system called WebEOC. And that system is used to request resources that we don't have in our parish, and that we need the state to assist us to get these resources. Or we don't have a contract, or we don't have, the necessary procurement was done to get what we need. We can go through the state and get this. Pretty much you can ask for almost anything. Okay, and they're going to try to get it for you. There's no promises. Okay, well, we put in the most requests out of any parish during audit, which was about 350 requests through the GoSub system. I would bear to say that probably 300 of those requests were fulfilled. Okay. So, but the issue that the agencies and some of our departments have is we put in a request, but we don't hear nothing back. We don't know when it's coming. We don't know if it's going to be fulfilled. We we just we don't know any information after we put the request in. So we're going to fix that for the next storm. We're going to have somebody, all they do is track WebEOC requests. And they're going to track those requests and say, has it been delivered? Is it on its way? What is the ETA? Make the phone calls, keep in touch, try to keep that flow going as far as those WebEOC requests come. A lot of times the requests are fulfilled and they're fulfilled more than they're not fulfilled, and it gets delivered, but we don't even know it's been delivered. Okay, and if I request a widget and they deliver the widget, well, I don't call back to the EOC and say, "Hey guys, my widget was delivered. Everything's cool. Everything's fine." So, and we need to know that too, because I need to make sure that whoever's made the request is getting what they need. So we're going to have somebody full time, or their job is going to sit there and follow these 300 and something requests to make sure that we're getting what we're asking for, and that, I guess I want to say, we're going to build a little fire on the procurement at GOSEP to make sure that we're getting what we need. So I think that'll flow a little better. Generators. We had a lot of requests for generators. The parish does not own a cache of generators. Okay, we only own enough for what we need for our pump stations, sewer lift stations, the number that we had, and for other items that we need for generators. We put in requests almost every day for requests of generators from GOSEP. The problem is most of the requests are coming in for private industry. That's who's looking for the generators. Okay. GOSEP does not provide resources for private industry. Okay. Unless it is for human health services or something that's going to protect or provide life saving services for the residents. So we, as my group and my office, need to do a better job in talking to the businesses and say, hey, you need to have a plan. What is your plan to operate your freezers if you don't have electricity? What is your plan to operate your community center if you don't have? Community center is not a good example because that's a public entity, but how are you going to run your grocery store if you don't have a generator? So I think we need to do some more promotion and public awareness, especially to businesses, on what they need to have to enable to sustain their business and to stay operating. We had gas stations that had gas, but no electricity. Okay. So we need to find a way through GOSEP to say that is important. You can't get me fuel in here. We can't get fuel in here, but we got fuel in the ground. I got to get it out. Can we use generators through GOSEP to run those gas stations to pump that fuel out? The next question is who gets the generator? Okay, you only have a certain few to go around, so how do we distribute these in a fair allocation during these times? So I do have to give a shout out to of something that really worked very well. I will say this, that most of the agencies, outside agencies that come into our emergency operations center, the biggest thing they talk about is the collaboration that goes on in there, being able to speak to someone, from the Corps of Engineers that's there, someone from the Louisiana National Guard, all the police officers with state police and wildlife and fisheries, and not the state agencies with the local agencies, being able to sit at the same table and collaborate and make sure things are taking place. That was one of the biggest pluses we heard through all the AARs. But I do want to say this. I want to give a shout out to what we call ESF 7, our resource support. That all entails purchasing, personnel issues. Candace and their division did a great job making sure that if there was purchases done during the hurricane that the parish was responsible for, that a purchase order was issued for those purchases, and that the purchasing was held under the control through Candace's office. There were no issues with that. They got payroll out to our employees. Okay, which it doesn't sound like may not mean much to you, but if you're waiting on your check, during a storm, you're glad you had that. They did a great job with the feeding contracts and all the other contracts that we had. That Candace, we call them prescriptive contracts because we get them before the storm. That she manages through purchasing to make sure that we have these contracts already in place to take care of what we need. So we're working on more contracts now because after the storm we found out that there are other things that we need. Chris and them had a good example. We need a contractor to come do the substantial damage surveys. We need a contract in place already so that right after the storm they can come in here. And there's many little things like that that some of the departments learned after the storm that, well, wait a minute, I need a contract, a prescriptive contract. Let's get a contract available so the next time we don't have to wait for somebody, or we don't even have to go out for bid because we already have the contract. So we've learned a lot of that, and Candace and her department is doing a great job helping us to take care of that. We had no issues with vendors. We had no issues with the evacuation on the buses. We felt that that went as smooth as it could go with 300 people and about 35 buses headed out of here. The only issue, we had as far as evacuation goes, was we need a little more help from the Department of Health to help us do triage on people that may be a special need, so that we make sure that they get the transportation that they need to go to that special needs shelter. But other than that, that was probably the biggest things. I have this report available. It will be emailed to each of you guys. Please take a look at it, review it. I want some more ideas. If y'all have something that y'all think that'll make our operations go better, I want to hear about it. Okay, and I want to look into it to see if we can do this. Hopefully, I won't have to use it. Okay, we appreciate the work that you guys do. I know during the storm, you guys, I don't see much of y'all in my EOC because I know where you're at. You're out in your districts. You're out there helping the residents of this parish and making sure that their needs are met as best as possible and the best that we can do to meet their needs. So I appreciate you guys being out there at that time period. And I appreciate the administration for the support they give our office at all times to be able to be prepared for these events.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. We do have a few lights. Mr. Harding.
Well, I can complete myself here. I appreciate this. I asked for this, some time back, and I know it's a very in-depth report. But I wanted my colleagues, the people of Terrebonne Parish, to know the pluses and the minuses, and what efforts that we're working forward to, whether it's this administration and going forward to any other administration that we have here. I agree with you when we were transporting some people out of the high rise. The problem that we had, a lot of those people were in wheelchairs and we were using buses. That was one of my concerns, and how to get some of that medicines to those people and how we would actually try to transport those folk. So I just yield to everyone else, and I appreciate you coming forward to get this report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. And, that time frame in those first few weeks and months, that was probably the most extraordinary time of my professional career, and I'm sure we could all probably agree with that. And when I say extraordinary, I mean it was unbelievable what we went through. But we were a team, and we all worked really well together. And although sometimes it seemed a little chaotic, it really did. But I do have a question for you, and I have another light as well. And I apologize, Mr. Trosclair. You clicked it on after I started. But has GOSEP in the state done an after action report similar to what we have here? Because I would be interested to see what they saw were the deficiencies or the strong points as well. Do you know that?
They have done one, but I haven't seen a copy of it. And you bring up a good point. The Louisiana Army National Guard came down here and they did an AAR with us as far as the pod operations go.
Mhm.
And they have learned through our operations that they cannot put just one large pod in the middle of town and expect everybody to go to it. And we have always, our office have always stressed that we need individual pods down the bayous individually. And it was hard for them to realize why. Okay. But they came down here and they brought 10 or 12 troops. They rode the bayous. They looked at the areas where we had pods, and they look at that and they would say, well, now we know why we need this. And it's great that they came because I can't put 3 or 4 18-wheelers at every pod. But if I can put one ICE 18-wheeler there, that's great. If I can put an ICE 18-wheeler and an MRE 18-wheeler, that's great. I won't be able to put all the things there, but they came down and surveyed all these areas, and they're ready to work, again with us if we needed to make sure the bayou areas get what they need.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that as well, those pods, because you just struck something with me. There were pods in the bayou, and we do appreciate that. And I know, Dirk and Steve, they definitely appreciated that. But there was not a, yeah, and Danny, yeah, but there was not a pod in the inner city. So where, Carl and I and our residents were, there wasn't a pod close to there. So we kind of made do with what we had. Those first few weeks, there wasn't, but that's something that I would like to go through with you with your after action once we have that, because I took some notes the entire time, and so it's something we can definitely discuss later. But we do have another light, Mr. Steve Trosclair.
Yeah, Earl, I don't have anything to comment on basically, what you did, but just want to let you know that, the EOC and everyone did a really good job um, in the storm situation. There were some hiccups along the way, but everybody overcame those and we moved forward. So, we all worked as a team and, got the parish back in my opinion, record time for the amount of disruption. But I just wanted to tell you, I think you wasted a lot of time putting this thing together because I'm gonna predict we're never gonna need none of that again.
I like your prediction.
Thank you, and I appreciate everything you guys did.
One other thing I'm going to comment on, and I think it's important, is it's very important for us to be able to communicate to our residents what's happening, what's going on. The problem is every resident wants to use this for information. We got to get away from his. Okay, we need to go back to the old-fashioned radio. Okay. You put batteries in it, you buy spare batteries, you leave spare batteries at home. You listen to that radio while you're in your car, you're listening to it while you're doing repairs in your house. You have no TV at night. You probably listening to the radio. With administration's approval, I have went out and spoke to a radio station. It is a 100,000-watt radio station that is located within Terrebonne Parish. That radio station will reach everyone in every corner of this parish. Martin Falls has said that he can broadcast his broadcast on radio also. We need to be able to have that radios and get people to understand they got to get a radio to hear what's going on. That you got to keep this charged. You got to have the internet. You got to have service. That radio, you just turn the switch on and you put it on the radio station and you hear what you need. Yes, we can catch WWL out of New Orleans, but if New Orleans isn't affected, they're really not concerned about what's happening here. We need a local radio station to be able to push this information out. My goal is to have somebody at the EOC from the radio station on a 12-hour basis, 6 in the morning to 6 at night. If they want to stay longer, they stay there. Any information that needs to be put out by anyone you can walk to that van or that radio station, say, hey, please push this out on the radio. Once we start doing that, people start listening to that radio station, everybody will get the information. Everybody will know where the gas distribution is. Everybody will know where the food distribution is. Everybody will know everything. They just have to turn the radio on. They don't have to rely on this to get information out because this isn't working too well a week or two after the storm. So I think that's where we're pushing that communication aspect to is to radio.
Thank you so much, Mr. Earl.
Okay, thank y'all.
Make the motion to go to 6:30 public hearing.
I have a motion to go to 6:30 public hearing by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. Alvin Tillman. Members, vote your machine. I have 8 yeses. Motion passes. 6:30 public hearing. Item A, an ordinance declaring a trencher from Electric Distribution Department as surplus and authorizing said items to be disposed of in any legal approved method. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Mr. Dirk Gidry. Second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machines. Motion passes.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machines. We have 8 yeas. Motion passes. Item B, an ordinance declaring a bush cutter from forced drainage as surplus and authorizing said item to be disposed of by any legally approved method. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close by Mr. Alvin Tillman.
Second.
Second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machine. Motion passes. Motion to adopt by Mr. Alvin Tillman. Second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machine. We have 8 yeas. Motion passes. Item C, an ordinance to authorize the acquisition of property with a municipal address of 250 Winsong Way, Houma, Louisiana 70360. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close by Mr. Darren Gidry. Second by Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor. Motion. Members, vote your machine. Motion passes. Motion to adopt by Mr. Darren Gidry, second by Mr. Carl Harding. Vote your machines. We have 8 yeas. Motion passes. An ordinance to amend the 2023 adopted operating budget 5-year capital outlay budget, the budgeted position of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Houma Downtown Development, $286,723. General Fund, Housing and Human Services, $5,000. Houma Police Department, $3,903. Restoration Act, Hollywood Road Bridge Extension, $2,177,891. Rotary Plaza, $110,000. Industrial Road Pump Station Replacement, $217,018. Lake Boudreaux Living Mitigation, $16,065. Lake Boudreaux Living Mitigation, $245,000. CBDG East Side Police Substation, $85,000. Prisoners Medical Department, $98,837. Add-on 1 full-time medical administrator, grade 211. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Mr. Dirk Gidry. Second by Mr. Alvin Tillman. Members, vote your machine. Public has been closed.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Dirk Gidry. Second by Mr. Alvin Tillman. Members, vote your machine. We have 8 yeas. The motion is adopted. Item E, an ordinance to amend the parish code of Terrebonne Parish by adding to Chapter 18 Motor Vehicle and Traffic, Article 4, Operation of Vehicles, Division 2, Parish, and to add a section under the said article to be designated as Section 18-911-1 to lower the existing 25-mile-per-hour speed limit to 15 miles per hour for the entire length of Charlene Street, to provide for the installation of said signs and to provide for other matters related thereto. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Mr. John Amity, second by Mr. Darren Gidry. Members, vote your machines. Public is closed.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. John Amity and second by Mr. Darren Gidry. Mr. Carl Harding.
Yes, I know we are reducing the speed limit here, but oftentimes, you know, I mean, the speed limit can be 5 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour. That's a serious problem. I'm saying this to the communities throughout Terrebonne Parish. That's a serious problem with people speeding in our neighborhoods, and this can actually put some teeth to something. But I'm just actually sending it out there to the people that are violating in our neighborhoods and residents, where these kids and the elderlies are you know, what I mean, going through their daily lives. So I just want to put that out there. Stop the speeding. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines. We have 8 yeas. Motion passes.
Motion to go back in the regular order.
We have a motion to go back into regular order by Mr. John Amity and a second by Mr. Dirk Gidry.
Dirk?
Members, vote your machines. Eight yeas. We are back in regular order. Item number B, discussion relative to the Terrebonne Parish Public Works Order System for fulfilling and tracking public complaints. Mr. Carl Harding.
Yes.
Can you please press your button?
Yes, again, I think we've been actually working on this, which bringing something to Terrebonne Parish, and I want to say that, you know, I mean, we actually took care of the personnel of Terrebonne Parish. We gave them some raises, we gave them opportunities, and I do believe in an honest day's work deserves an honest day's pay. And we get a lot of complaints from our constituents, and we want to be able to track that. And the tracking system that we actually have to hold everybody accountable, because we want to be more efficient, you know, in what we're doing. And being efficient, we have given better services to the citizens. So the reporting system, I think I'm aware of. Mr. Clay Nakan, he has something that's in place. I made a phone call to Mr. Clay in the morning, and I got immediate response through his system. And we're working to actually provide services for our constituents, but then also a method of each individual council person to actually have an opportunity to look at not only just the complaint, but then some of the problems in the areas that they're having within their district. So I can appreciate the efforts that Mr. Mike Toops and his group that has made, and I yield to him right now.
Mr. Toops.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everyone should have received this report. It was sent Sunday night. This was sent from Ashley Callahan, so I don't know what email you got it from. If you didn't get it, and you would rather get it on, some of you have both TPCG email addresses and personal, please let me know and I can add your personal email address to it. This report from district to district, excuse me, ranged from 7 pages to 19 pages. This was our first bite at the apple. We're still fine tuning it. We have drainage, solid waste, roads and bridges, and soon pollution control is going to be added to this report. It's pretty detailed. We ask that if you have complaints or issues, please call the various departments, and the clerks are trained to take your call and they will enter them into the system. What we don't want, or we would prefer not to, is, for example, you call me or David Rome direct or Clay Nakan direct. If we're on the road, we may forget. So we're asking you to please contact the departments. The clerks will answer the phone. We'll take your information and they will enter it into the system.
I do have a few lights. Mr. Alvin Tillman.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Toops, thank you guys very, very much. Let your department know I really appreciate the fact the response has been there. The complaints has been coming in. They've been back and forth, let me know what's going on. So I certainly appreciate that. Mr. Pulaski, Johnny on the spot with your crew, they've been doing a great job of contacting and letting us know, let me know what's going on. I'm quite sure they're doing that for everybody else. I appreciate that because I've been able to talk to some of those residents, and of course our department at the council clerks, they've been really John on the spot as well. So that communication is coming through. So therefore we can all network with each other and get it done. And Mr. Toop, like to thank you for last night. I mean, you guys got that tree down discussion we had at condemnation because it was at hazard. So you guys got that down right on the spot. So appreciate that. Keep up the good work and let them know that it's working. Thank you, Madam
sir.
Chair.
I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but you will get this report every Sunday night. So if you think it's too much information, if you want to make it bi-weekly, we can do that. Or if we send it, we just ask that you read it. If there's something that you put or called in and it's not on there, please let us know. And we're still working through the bugs of this. This is the first report we issue. So we know there will be some changes, and we will do our best to make sure every one of your concerns are met.
All right, I have a few more lights. Mr. Darren Guidry?
Yes, and of course, I looked at the report, and I would want to receive mine as often as I could receive it. But there is one thing that's not in the report that, would really be tremendously helpful. I don't know if it's possible, is to have some type of estimated completion date. Even if the date gets moved back, that's really when constituents call, they want to know, when is my ditch going to be dug? And if we tell them it'll be dug, well, we're in February right now, it'll be dug by April 15th. They'll wait till April 15th. If it gets bumped back, then we can update them. But they really want to know that indeed there is something there, and then there's some account. Oops. Can you push me again? That there's some accountability. The other thing is you talked about calling council clerks, but we can go online and report it just like any resident could, right? On the online services and report it to, because that's the easiest way, because then you're not even tying up a clerk's time. Or, and typing it only takes about, 30, 40 seconds, whereas, hello, Councilman Darren Guidry, that's about 2 or 3 minutes. So I suggest doing it online and publicizing it as much as possible to the general public so they know they can do the same thing. So thank you, Mr. Toops.
Good suggestion, Mr. Guidry, and I will talk to Ashley Callahan, who's basically been implementing this program for us, and she works under the direction of Mr. Earl, and I will see if we can add that in and have that done. Good, very good suggestion.
Mr. Carl, do you have anything else?
Yeah, and that's the intent. Well, it's just like Earl was saying earlier, it's something as simple as just turning on the radio, and we have department heads, and not to say that, one councilman would get an advantage over another councilman when we actually call. So this makes it a fair system. The people within the public feels that it's a fair, safe system. Great point by Mr. Guidry here. And we want the people to use the website. We want the people to call these department heads and stuff like that. So we won't actually bog down because we got to make 3 phone calls. So if someone called me and someone calls Tammy called, I'm sorry, Miss Triggs, and Miss Triggs has to call me, and then I have to call someone else and go through those channels. It's a much simple way to do this, and saying this to the people out there, we're working for you, and we're actually trying to provide services for you, but then they have to participate, and all of us up here are equal, and in that being equal is the fact that we have a fair system, because most oftentimes people say, well, they forget about this part of the parish, they forget about that part of the parish, or they don't look at this area. Why are you not doing this in this area? But they're doing it over in the area. So that's a fair system. And we can go back and check our system to be more efficient and satisfy our customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding, and thank you, Mr. Toops, and I appreciate getting that
I
every
have
week as well. Yes, sir.
one more thing I'd like to add, and it's more related to Earl's report, but I just want to advise the council that I'm meeting with your former colleague, Dr. John Navy, tomorrow, and his immediate supervisor, Dr. Ebanks. We're meeting at 10 o'clock with myself, Mr. Earl Hughes, and Ms. Kelly Cunningham. And they're offering, this is the American Red Cross. They're coming to us and saying, hey, what did we do wrong? What can we do better? How can we service you more effectively for any future um, catastrophes? So we're meeting with them tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So again, the American Red Cross hopes to be more visible, more active, and I think we can thank Dr. Navy for that, because I believe this is his region that he serves.
That sounds wonderful, and I would actually like a summary of that meeting as well, if maybe somebody could send us an email about that, because I think that would be very fascinating to read also. But thank you, Mr. Toops.
Thank you.
Item 3, public wishing to address the council. Ms. Triggs, do we have any? Okay, so we don't have any speaker cards. Moving on. Committee reports. Item A, Budget and Finance Committee, Mr. Dirk Gidry.
I'll make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting held on February 27, 2023, and I have one public hearing. Introduce an ordinance to declare as surplus a tax property located at 300 Willowdale Drive, adjudicated to Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, and to acquire authorization to dispose of said property in accordance with LARS 47:2196, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, March 15, 2023 at 6:30 p.m.
We have a motion by Mr. Gidry and a second by Mr. Alvin Tillman. Members, please vote your machines. We have 8 yeas. Motion passes. Item B, Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee, Mr. John Amity.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee held on February 27th, 2023, and I have no public hearing.
We have a motion by Mr. Amity and a second by Mr. Tillman. Members, vote your machines. 8 yeas. Motion passes. Item C, Public Service Committee, Mr. Carl Harding.
Thank you, ma'am. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the.
Mr. Carl, can you please press your button?
All right. Okay. Thank you again. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Public Service Committee held on February 27, 2023, and I have one public hearing. And that is, given notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Parish of Terrebonne so as to rezone from R1, single-family residence, to R3, multifamily residence, Lot 19, Block C, Mechanicville, 139A Banks Avenue, Homer, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Wilfred Nels, applicant, and call for a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, April 12, 2023 at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Harding and a second by Mr. Amity. Members, vote your machines. We have 8 yeas. Motion passes. Item 5, streetlights. As per by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. Darren Gidry. Members, vote your machine. We have 8 yeas. Motion passes. Item 6, appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. A, Library Board of Control, one expired term on 3/11/2023. Ms. Gwen Talbot expresses her interest in being reappointed. Motion to open, close, and reappoint Ms. Talbot by Mr. Babin, second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines. We have 8 yeas. Motion passes. Congratulations, Ms. Talbot. Item B, Schriever Fire Protection District Board, one expired term. Mr. Ryan J. Chauvin submits application and resume for consideration.
Motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. Chauvin.
Second.
Motion to open, close, and appoint by Mr. Amity, second by Mr. Carl Harding. Members, vote your machines. We have 8 yays. Mr. Ryan Chauvin has been reappointed, and congratulations to him. Item 7, vacancies to various boards, commissions, and committees. A, Recreation District Number 5 Board, 1 expired term. Recreation District Number 6 Board, 1 vacancy and 1 expired term. Fire Protection District Number 5 Board, 1 expired term. Fire Protection District Number 6 Board, 1 vacancy due to a resignation. Fire Protection District Number 8 Board, 2 expired terms. Bayou Blue Fire Protection District Board, 1 expired term. Coto Fire Protection District Board, 1 expired term. Homa Terrebonne Public Trust Finance, 2 expired terms. TITA, 2 expired terms. Terrebonne Parish Tree Board, 3 vacancies due to resignations. Announcements, Parish President, Mr. Toops, do we have any announcements?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Council, is there any announcements? Seeing no announcements. Staff reports, do you have any other staff reports, Mr. Toops?
Motion. Second.
Motion adjourned by Mr. Steve Trosclair, second by Mr. John Amity. Members, vote your machine. 8 yeas, we are adjourned. Good night, everyone.